Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us and thank you for being punctual. You have signed up to this open webinar into the basics of the B Impact Assessment. My name is Nicolas Gemio. You can call me Nico, and I am very grateful to be able to work alongside Elis Hurtado at B Lab Europe. We are part of the markets development team, and we support companies at the admin level, let's say, not at the consultant level, in all those European countries where B Lab doesn't have a country partner. So that is Central Eastern and Eastern Europe, the Balkans, the Baltics, Turkey, and to a lesser extent, Poland and, Portugal and Ireland as well. And we are very, very lucky to be joined today by Martina Rentova, who works at Flagship Impact as a sustainability strategist. Flagship Impact is a sustainability consultancy that helps clients achieve their sustainability and strategy goals. And they are in business for more than 10 years and became a B Corp last year. So it's really a privilege, and we're looking forward to hearing a lot more from Martina's side directly. Before we dive into it, just a moment to acknowledge the agenda for the day. By the way, thank you all for introducing yourselves in the chat. Jose, Gabriela, Aina. If you haven't done it yet, please introduce yourself in the chat. Say a couple words about yourself or your business. So we are going to start with a brief introduction to the B Corp movement for those of you who may be new to it. Then we're going to dive into the B Impact Assessment, which is the main topic of the webinar, and that's going to be facilitated between Martina and myself. And lastly, we will allow time for question and answers and also discuss next steps, such as B Corp certification for those of you who are interested in that. And while you all continue to introduce yourselves in the chat, welcome Camila, long time no see, and welcome Piercy. Thank you for joining. I will stop sharing and ask very briefly before we go to the next part, how much B Impact Assessment knowledge you have at the moment. And for that, I want to share a poll, if I'm able to do that. So please let us know. It's relevant for us to know how to facilitate the rest of the webinar. How much knowledge or experience do you currently have about the B Impact Assessment from 1 to 10? 1 being almost nothing. I'm not even sure how I sign up to this. I'm not sure where I am. And 10 being I have a lot of experience. I've led a company through certification, or I use the B Impact Assessment every other week. Almost everyone participating in the poll already. There are only a couple left to participate. So if you're able to answer the prompt, please give your answer and let us know how much experience do you currently have with the B Impact Assessment. So the majority of you have a medium level of experience, 5, which is fantastic. There are only a couple 7s, and the rest are below 5, which is fantastic. It means you're in the right place. So thank you for sharing that. And before I pass the word to Elis to introduce us to the B Corp movement, please let's make the most out of this little window of time that we have together. Ask as many questions as you want in the chat. We may address some of them on the go, but we'll leave others for the Q&A at the end. And don't hesitate to also raise your hand if there is something you don't understand or something that you want to challenge us on. So with that, Elis, I pass the floor over to you.
Thank you, Nico. Let's see. Can everyone see my screen now?
Perfect.
Great. So we're in the midst of a global culture shift that's transforming how we view the role of business in society. More than ever, we're recognizing the incredible potential that businesses have to make a positive impact. And this shift is really about harnessing the power of business to tackle society's biggest challenges. Historically, our economic systems have prioritized profits over purpose, shareholders over stakeholders, and short-term gains over long-term sustainability. But thanks to brave and forward-thinking companies like yours, we're proving that there's a better way. Together, we're showing how business can truly be a force for good. At B Lab, our vision is to create an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system, one that benefits all people and the planet. And we know this is an ambitious goal. And that's why we developed a clear theory of change. It outlines the steps we're taking to turn this vision into reality and guides our actions as we work towards a better future. So I won't dive into the full details of our theory of change today. I know that this graphic can be a little overwhelming, but we just wanted to share it with you so you know it's here. And we encourage you to explore it further when you have time. You'll be receiving the deck after the call today. And if you're still curious, you can always find more information on our theory of change on our website. So I'll drop the link in the chat for easy access shortly. But in essence, it all boils down to one goal, which is redefining the role of business so that every business can be a force for good. We started by looking at the key problems that we aim to solve. We put stakeholders at the heart of our approach, and we developed global strategies that guide everything we do. These are the 5 key strategies that serve as our guiding compass. First, our top priority is really driving the adoption of B Lab standards to help businesses manage their impact. And this is really at the heart of everything we do, empowering businesses to use these standards as a tool to measure and improve their impact. We love the quote, "You can't improve what you don't measure." Secondly, we certify businesses. By doing this, we verify the positive impact that they're making. Next, we amplify stories of businesses that are truly being a force for good. This storytelling supports the culture shift we were discussing earlier, and it shows the world that businesses can and should be a part of the solution. Fourth, we work to catalyze policy change. We've dedicated people and resources to influence policymaking and change the rules of the corporate world so that one day all businesses can be a force for good by law. And finally, we focused on developing a network of local, regional, and global communities for change. And that's really what we're doing here today together, simply by joining and having this conversation. And we know that driving systemic change is not easy or straightforward, but we know we're not doing it alone. With the support of businesses like yours, alongside movements, coalitions, policymakers, activists, and other organizations, we're confident we can make a difference. And most importantly, by catalyzing our stakeholders, which are our certified B Corps, benefit corporations, and businesses adopting B Lab standards, we really believe we can turn our vision into reality. Oops. Oh, so who are we? Who's B Lab? B Lab is a global network spanning 6 continents, which makes us uniquely positioned to accelerate and align the movement for economic systems change. As part of B Lab's global network, B Lab Europe is rooted in the same mission and vision as B Lab Global. Our purpose is to redefine success in business through building a community of engaged businesses, by raising awareness of the B Corp movement, and by influencing change in the European economy. B Lab Europe started back in 2013, and we've seen constant growth in the number of B Corps across Europe ever since. And we really see this as proof that there's an increasing demand for a better model of business. Today, we're stronger than ever, and the total number of B Corps continues to rise, and fairly quickly. So sometimes these numbers here on the right easily become outdated, but you can always find current figures on our website. And I actually checked this morning, and we currently have over 9,000 B Corps globally across many, many industries who all share one unifying goal. This is our wonderful team at B Lab Europe, with a little over 30 of us from the rest of Europe and all over the world who are passionate about business as a force for good. B Lab Europe, and more specifically, the markets development team, which is comprised of me, Nico, and our two colleagues, Helena and Sarah, is your point of contact for any of you in emerging B Corp markets, including Ireland and Portugal. It's honestly a really big pleasure to work with companies in pioneering regions where the B Corp movement is just getting started. And speaking of just getting started, Emerging B Corp Markets recently got our own webpage on the B Lab Europe site. So I'll also link that in the chat shortly so you can take a look. Behind the B Impact Assessment are B Lab standards. We recognize that high quality social and environmental business standards demand continuous improvement in order to meet principles of inclusion, independence, and credibility. So when you receive the slide deck, you'll be able to click down on that right-hand yellow bar, and it'll go into further detail about how B Lab standards are developed. But in short, we have a Standards Advisory Council, which is composed of about 15 independent experts, none of which work at B Lab, and they govern the standards. And we try to update the standards every 3 years through stakeholder consultations. We're currently in the middle of updating our standards and have completed 2 public rounds of consultations with B Corps and non-B Corps alike. We're reviewing and implementing the results of these consultations right now to create ambitious but attainable sustainability standards. In 2025, we'll start sharing details informing B Corps of the expected timeline and the requirements for their transition to the new standards. And we're exploring a lot of different avenues to support B Corps when onboarding to the new standards. The first cohort of B Corps will certify on these new standards at some point in 2026, in line with their existing recertification cycle. So, in summary, what is B Corp? It's the assessment, the certification to recognize top performers. It's the legal change, which is something that's available in some European countries, and Nico will touch on that a little bit later on. And of course, the community of B Corps and the collective leadership that comes from it. We're learning every day from B Corps, and it's really what makes a difference in the movement. The standards are important, but what companies like yours do with them, and as well as how they inspire other companies, it's what really matters. Here you can see the growth of certified B Corps in Europe over the past decade or so. We've been doing our best to cope with this growth and trying to make sure that companies don't have to wait too long to hear from us. Our intention is to make sure that the growth is not only sustainable, but meaningful. And last, but certainly not least, the B Corp community is good company to keep. In a moment, I'll also send a link in the chat to the public B Corp directory in case you haven't seen this resource yet. It's a section on our website where you can see all certified B Corps across the globe, so all 9,000 and counting of them. And you can search by sector, by size, country, and even by industry. So I invite you to take a look at that when you have a moment. And now I'm really honored to pass it over to Martina from Flagship Impact, who will dive into the B Impact Assessment today, which is why we're all here. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alice. I'll
right.
try and share my screen instead.
Yes.
Let me know if you can see it okay.
It's taking a couple seconds to load, but I believe we'll be able to see it in a moment.
Yeah, I think it's frozen. Sorry, I'll restart.
And if it doesn't work, we can also pass the slides for you.
And, let me try once more. So once I click slideshow, it has all frozen.
Yay, fantastic.
Yay. Thank you. Good. So, hi everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here with you today, and it's also a huge pleasure to be part of the whole B Corp movement and the wonderful community around it. I'm going to talk to you briefly today about the large benefits that are hidden in the B Impact Assessment, and from the point of view of a consultancy, where I see a huge added value of going through the whole exercise. And I will also look forward to any questions or comments you might have. So, B Impact Assessment, tracking what matters. And how do you measure success? So in the B Impact Assessment, there are five main categories of impact areas, which you will be guided through when you kickstart the journey. It concerns the workers, environment, customers, community, and governance. So these are the main five areas that you cover. But first and foremost, it is very important to say that the B Impact Assessment is a free and confidential online tool that you can use anytime you decide you want to go through the journey and start improving your impact. I highly recommend start using the tool. You can do it anytime, and you can be sure that you can use it as a confidential tool, and unless you click submit to submit for your certification, it's not going to be part of any review. And you can use it for your self-improvement for as long as you like. So it's very useful. It also provides you insights on benchmarking, where you can compare your performance to other businesses and see how you do. And what I'm going to be talking about today is the main asset of the tool I see in terms of your chance for improvement, where you can customize your own trajectory of impact. And the tool is designed in a way so that it guides you in a very efficient way. So setting up your account, this is a link that you can use. Probably most of you have already started. If not, this is a direct link to get you started to set up your account and open up the tool today. And what you need to go through when you go through the registration in the tool is you need to select the market, meaning the country of your incorporation, where you select the country in which the company is incorporated. And if the company has offices in more countries, you select the one where your headquarters is based. You also are prompted to select your sector. There are several sectors to choose from, so this is something you're going to be guided through again. And you also select your size based on the number of employees. This is just an overview of the different types of markets that are differentiated. So it's the developed market in the USA and global, and there are also the emerging markets in Latin America, Eastern Europe, Africa, Asia, and Middle East. In terms of the sectors, there are five main sector areas, which is agriculture, manufacturing, wholesale and retail, services with minor environmental impact, and services with some significant environmental impact. This is something you will be guided through. And also you can select the size of your company based on the number of employees that are on your payroll. For that, we recommend to work with your HR department. And there's also a guiding tool from B Lab. There's also, you can go through, there are many supporting resources you can click through on in your B Impact Assessment. You can also use the knowledge base, which the B Lab provides, and it offers you sufficient insights into how to kind of calculate all the information that you need to input, including the number of employees, because this is information that's sometimes not as clear as it might appear on the first look. And if you go through your registration and you still at the end find out you've clicked or selected incorrect market or incorrect sector, you can still update your track in the B Impact assessment. On the left-hand side, you can see where you can find it in the dashboard. And in here, you just click Update Track and select the correct type of information. So what is being tracked in the B Impact assessment? There are two main focus areas in the B Impact assessment, and that is the operational impact that your organization has and so-called impact business models. The operational impact of your organization covers everything that you do on a day-to-day basis. Basically, it covers all your relationships with suppliers, with your employees, your internal governance, everything and that applies to your main product or service. And it is aligned with other sustainability standards. So many times you will see that the type of information that is required is very kind of very much expected, in a way that if you've gone through any other ESG management or sustainability management tool, you see that these are the questions you would normally expect. And then additionally, you can also go through the route of impact business models. And these are specific aspects of the B Impact assessment that are unique to your company, where you will see, based on your business model, you will get some additional questions connected to your main product or service, and you can basically earn extra points for any impact business models that you would have where you create some specific positive impact. I'm gonna touch on this later on, and I'm gonna talk you through what it entails in terms of operational impact, and also give you some examples of the impact business models and how they look like. So you can see how that looks in practice. Okay, I think my screen got stuck. Okay, there we go. So in terms of operational impact, as I mentioned at the beginning, there's 5 main impact areas that are covered in the B Impact assessment. And those are governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. Within governance, you see mission and engagement, ethics and transparency. Within workers, there are topics such as financial security, health and wellness, career development, or engagements and satisfaction. In terms of community impact, what the B Impact assessment assesses are diversity and inclusion, economic impact, civic engagement, supply management. In terms of environmental impact, it looks at environmental management, air and climate, water, land and life. And it also assesses your customer stewardship when it comes to your customer relationships. So these are the main areas of operational impact. As you can see, they are very much predictable. If you've been in touch in any way with any kind of ESG tool, it's very much self-explanatory what is expected. And I want to touch upon quite unsurprising connection with a new legislation in Europe that I think is very much connected with the big push in the Europe now for raising the bar for sustainability and ESG. And I see quite a big overlap in terms of the topics and the issues that are handled or expected in terms of the Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, and in terms of also what B Corp expects you to kind of track and improve. So what I want to touch on today is how these two are related and how you can take benefit of basically integrating your activities, whether you're already a company that will have to report under CSRD, or whether you are an SME that is not in relationship or it's not mandatory for you to report, but you will be touched by this legislation in another way. I will explain shortly. So just brief explanation of what CSRD is all about. Basically, all large companies will be required to disclose and report their ESG data from 2025 onwards. Soon, the listed SMEs will be also included. They will have to report their information in line with the European Sustainability Reporting Standards, which will be guiding the way how the information is disclosed and how the reporting is conducted. It covers all areas of ESG, and I will soon show you how they overlap with the B Corp operational impact topics. And basically, it will require you to submit your information in a transparent manner. They will be all digitally tagged and part of one European database where the European Single Access Point will be created. So the information within Europe will be comparable and transparent on all levels. It will also require audit, and it mandates double materiality. I will shortly show you also how that connects with the activities and how it can be integrated with your B Corp activities. So basically, as I was mentioning already, the CSRD does target the large companies mainly in terms of the requirements. So large companies, for them, it will be mandatory to report for CSRD. But there's a huge group of smaller SMEs for which the reporting is not mandatory, but you might be one of them, and you might think the legislation doesn't really cover me and I'm okay. But I want to say that you still may be impacted by the legislation in a way that you might have some of your customers that are part of this reporting, and they will be required data from you. So you might be expecting, or you might have already received some requests for sustainability data in terms of what you're doing, what your policies are, what your actions are to manage your key impacts in sustainability. So where basically the trajectory goes is that you can use the experience from either first taking your B Corp journey and B impact assessment and take it as an advantage in terms of the data you will be providing to your customers, or as a large company, you might be using the information for your mandatory reporting. Or on the other way around, you might take advantage of what you already have to do in terms of legislative requirements, what you already have to collect a huge bunch of data, and the B impact assessment tool can then help you effectively to improve your impact and basically guide you to journey of improvement and where to best set up your policies and actions and what to improve. So these are the topics that are covered by the ESRS reporting standards. As you might see, they very much overlap with what the B Lab is tracking. I also have a slide where I put them side by side for you to see that basically under ESRS, you have a big category of environmental impact, and it very much overlaps with what is tracked in the B impact assessment. In terms of environmental management, air and climate, water, land and life, you will be asked how you track your emissions, what kind of impact you have on biodiversity, water consumption, and so on and so on. And this is very much similar in terms of reporting for ESRS. In terms of the social, basically under the B impact assessment, you can see the social separated in workers, community, and customers. And the topics very much overlap with the S in the ESRS, where both of the frameworks basically aim not only for your own employees and your operations, but also to your wider value chain, basically, and how what is your relationship in terms of your workers in the value chain, how you affect the communities around you and your value chain, and what kind of relationships and standards you pursue when you come into contact with your customers. And in terms of governance, the ethics and transparency are a big part of both ESRS and the B impact assessment. And in that sense, ESRS has quite a few subcategories extra as well. But again, those are also to some extent covered by the B impact assessment. So what I want to say is basically that you can take advantage of what you already do or what you might have to do, what you might be expected to do in terms of the new legislative requirements. And I want to point out that there are many similarities, and both frameworks focus on transparency and accountability for your impacts, and both basically lead you to publicly disclose the information about your impacts, where if you complete the B certification, it requires the companies to publicly disclose their performance on their website. You can look out for the information on the B Corp directory, where you can get a profile of any company and see how they scored in each of the areas of their main impact and what kind of score they received. While the CSRD and the ESRS reporting will be mandatory to be published every year. So that basically amplifies the need of transparency and transparent approach in your communications. And also, I want to point out that both of the frameworks, in terms of transparency, also motivate you for continuous reporting and continuous improvement. In terms of B Corp certification, the companies have to recertify every 3 years. So that means they have to basically continuously revisit and improve their activities. And in terms of the reporting, you have to report annually, and you have to compare the information to previous years, meaning for example, if you publish your information on your carbon footprint, you will be required to basically compare how you improve to previous years. So it will also motivate you to improve in some way. And both of them are established frameworks. Obviously, B Corp certification has gained trust and is a standardized assessment, basically that is very credible, while CSRD has its European sustainability reporting standards, which have been developed and are now a legal requirement subject to audit. So this type of information is also very trustworthy. So these two frameworks, I believe, complement each other in a very efficient way. and you can take advantage of what you do in one to complete the other, basically. On the next slide, I want to show part of the process in terms of complying with CSRD and the ESRS reporting requirements is to complete your double materiality analysis, which leads you to the identification of your key impacts, risks, and opportunities. And as I already mentioned, this is not only for your own operations, but for your wider value chain, meaning you have to assess how your impact is being managed throughout your supply chain and all the way towards the end of your life cycle of your product or service. And in terms of the B Corp certification, you also have to evaluate your impact as a whole organization. It's not designed to basically evaluate only part of the process, such as, for example, certifications such as fair trade. It only requires you to have a look at specific part or specific product, specific part of your process. Whereas in here, you need to evaluate the complete context of your existence and of your activities. In terms of what you do for both, B Impact Assessment is then able to help you. You can use it as a tool to help you for improvement. In the B Impact Assessment tool, if you see the dashboard on the left-hand side, you can basically click on reports and then improvement report. And it's going to offer you a selection of topics where it sees a potential for your improvement. And by the way, how the questions are compiled, it basically gives you a clear indication where there's space for you to improve. So this is a very kind of useful tool for you to use. There's also some pro tips in terms of our consultancy work. We would encourage you, to complete your assessment and try and gain at least 85 points before you click on submit. As through your verification and evaluation process, some points may be lost. So keep it in mind that in order for you to certify, you need at least 80 points. But before you click submit for your certification, we recommend to get at least 85 points. So this is only in case you will actually aim for the final certification. If you don't aim for the final certification, you can still use this tool and the improvement report to basically help you get the indication where which areas are easy to basically change and what you need to do, what kind of improvements you can put in place to improve your activities and your impact. How to improve your performance? I wanted to show just briefly what kind of questions can lead you to some quick wins. In terms of your improvement, you will see that some of the questions are so-called quick wins. It means that they don't require that many resources for you to put together, and they're quite quick to change within your organization. For example, how does your company encourage good environmental stewardship and how employees manage their virtual offices? So this is something that can be changed quite quickly. You might put in place an initiative that doesn't really cost that much money or an effort and is very effective. On the other hand, there's also some longer term changes that might be required or you might consider. Those may be long term in a way that the company process that needs to be put in place is not that easy and requires some additional resources or some specific period of time that it needs for completion. So the two examples we have in here are how many of your company board directors identify as women. So this is usually not that easy to change, unfortunately. I would wish for it to be different. Usually with our clients, we find this topic quite difficult, although it can be effectively worked on. Or, for example, what percentage of employees has been internally promoted within the last 12 months. So these are some longer term changes that might be required. These are just some examples, and I want to show you that they both can be used basically to influence your sustainability strategy in a company. The way we worked with our clients is that we put together the learnings from the double materiality analysis, as well as we can include the learnings from your B impact assessment. And we can see how basically your sustainability strategy can be improved and what kind of changes it might bring. So I also have a slide to basically show you where you can actually, within the B impact assessment, set up your goals. So this is a feature you can find on the left-hand side. You see goals, and you will be able to click on any of the categories. And this is an example. How would you like to answer this question in future? So you can click any of the options, you can describe your goal and even set a due date for that. So this is something you can indicate already within your B impact assessment. And then as a follow-up, we would take that information and incorporate it into your whole company sustainability strategy. We usually recommend using so-called objectives and key results method for setting your goals, where basically everything in the company should be tied to your vision or a purpose. So we see how your quick wins or long-term goals that would be come out of your B impact assessment or of your double materiality analysis under the CSRD requirements come in, and basically how they can be joined with the company vision and some long-term ambitions or objectives. And this is an additional value I see how you can take basically the information that you gain through either the compliance activities that you have to do for CSRD, or additionally through your B impact assessment. And they are both interrelated, and the B impact assessment can even guide you with its questions, basically how it would fit into your sustainability strategy. So this is just a general overview how it can look and how it can basically all tie up to your vision and purpose of your company. So we've covered the operational impact and the topics and how they are interrelated with the CSRD and ESRS topics. And I want to touch down also on the impact business models. As I said, this is an extra feature. And I think after basically taking your learnings and incorporating them into your sustainability strategy and into your vision and purpose, you will be well able to see what kind of impact business models is your business suited for. If not, and if it's not clear on the first side, you can be quite calm, because the B impact assessment is also going to guide you and is also going to prepare specific questions for you where the impact business models might be identified. So basically, this is something that is unique for your company. It is tied to your key business model, your key service or a product that you provide, and it should positively affect some specific stakeholders. How it appears, well, it doesn't appear in this way in the B impact assessment, but I want to indicate here that under the operational impact questions that you see in the first half, Each has a separate set of questions that are hidden, and they only appear in case some impact business model can be identified through your business activities. So in terms of workers, there might be specific initiatives for a worker-owned business or worker development. And in every other area in terms of communities, environment, and customers, you can also see other topics that can be identified. You don't have to worry which to kind of worry your head about which to kind of connect to your business. As I said, the B Impact Assessment is readily available to basically provide you with that guidance. It's going to show you the relevant questions that are specifically for you, not all of them. So as I said, the impact business models are unique to the company, and it aims to capture the reason of existence of your company. So it goes back to your purpose or to main your service or product. It also is aimed at creating a significant positive effect for one or more of its stakeholders. And it assesses the core product or service, as I said already. On top of it, it needs to be verifiable, documented and verified through your documentation. It needs to be lasting, and it also needs to be extraordinary. It means something unique in terms of your own company, and not something you would mostly find in all traditional businesses. What are some examples of these impact business models? For example, supply chain poverty alleviation in terms of community impact. And this would recognize any supply chain strategies that reduce poverty through trade terms, positive labor conditions, and support for underserved suppliers. And I want to show you one example where there's a B Corp that applies this quite well within their supply chain and has gone miles to address the topic. So you might be familiar with Tony's Chocolonely chocolate, which basically has its plan to end slavery within chocolate supply chains. You might be familiar with the topic, and this is an issue that is present in most chocolate or cocoa supply chains. So Tony Chocolonely is actively applying traceability within their supply chain, and what they're doing extra is also motivating other companies within their industry to follow suit, and they want to basically move their whole industry with the initiatives that they're putting in practice, which is quite inspiring. And another example is workforce development, which recognizes companies that aim to hire or provide quality jobs to individuals that have certain barriers for employment. And I want to give you an example of the Greyston Bakery, which I myself find very inspiring and very unique in a way that they implement open hiring. It means that they do not do any background checks when hiring new workforce, and they welcome everyone equally, which in a sense gives opportunities to anyone that has some background problems, background issues, and the program is very welcome, especially for anyone with any history of being prisoners or anyone with any kind of background issues. So I find it very interesting. So these are some impact business models that are very well implemented in practice, And there are many more, and you can also see if you look through the B Corp directory, you can look out for the companies and see what kind of impact business models they were awarded for. And I want to show you an example of our own company, of Flagship Impact, and basically how the information about an impact business model shows on the B Corp directory website. So if you look for Flagship Impact, it's going to show you our scores in all areas of governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. And under customers, you can see a selection of information that we have gained some extra points for impact improvement. And this is the impact business model that goes well for us. So this is it in practice. And this is something how the B impact assessment can basically very effectively help you to gain more points and even identify the activities that you may improve without you even realizing in the first place. So I encourage everyone that haven't yet started using the B impact assessment tool to give it a go. It's free, as I said, and you can use it for as long as you'd like without any limit. And it basically is a very good experience how to move your impact and how to structure your activities in a very effective way. And on top, it can, as I said, and the key takeaway is it can supplement your activities that you either have to do under CSRD as a compliant company, or if you're not a compliant company but are a small SME, you might still be required by some of your customers to provide some ESG data. And for that, the B impact assessment is a great tool to get you started on what to measure, how to measure, and where to move your needle, basically. So that's it from me, and I'm handing over back to Nico.
Thank you so much for that, Martina. I don't think you could have explained it in a more clear way. And before we move on, there's a question for you in the chat. We can address it later from Corina. And before we move on to next steps and B Corp certification, for those of you interested, just a couple more notes on BIA functionalities. Hopefully you can see my screen now. Again, Martina shared already the most important ones, but just to see again how the B impact assessment looks like in practice for a couple more minutes. Once you are inside your B impact assessment account, on the left side panel, there is something called question filter. Most companies that use the B impact assessment don't know that this exists. And we need to make it more simple and user-friendly. But since you're here today, you can, I invite you to check out this feature, which allows you to filter questions out of those 200, 250 questions. Sometimes you want to find a specific one, such as questions where you have achieved a minimum score of, let's say, 0.5 points or 1 point. For instance, if you get asked by, let's say, TV or newspaper to have an interview about your impact, and you want to find what are the questions, what are the areas of your organization where you're having the greatest positive impact, this can help you filter out the ones where you have a higher score. And the other way around as well. You can filter out questions where you're leaving most points on the table, where you could improve the most. So this is connected to the improvement report that Martina mentioned earlier. This is just another way of seeing a selection of questions where you are not getting maximum points. On the left side panel, you can access an overview of performance across different impact areas. And this is also the place where to see benchmarks and where you can see how your company, if you click up there on the upper right corner, where you're here on this part of the assessment, you can see how your company, your organization compares to other organizations in your country, your sector, or your size range. So these not necessarily certified B Corps, but companies that are using the B Impact assessment and have completed most of the assessment. The goals feature is one of my favorite ones. Martina already explained how it worked, but just as a reminder, it's always here on the upper right corner of every question. You have the bookmark option and the goals feature with a star. And on the lower right corner of the screen, you will always have access to a pop-up window that brings you to B Lab's knowledge base. So the knowledge base, as I shared earlier on the chat, is our internal Wikipedia, and most questions that you may come up with are there. If you don't find the answer there, please consult a trained B leader. And if they also don't have the answer, then probably B Lab can help. But there is a lot of very useful information there on how to interpret questions and also details about the certification process. And next up, a couple best practices for those of you measuring your impact. We encourage you to formalize policies. It's one of the things that will actually give you points in the B Impact assessment. And depending on your size, it could be that you are doing many, many very positively impactful things in your organization, but they're not formalized. They're not official, and it's hard to share them with the outside world if they're not formalized. Like everyone in the company knows that you have volunteering hours, or that you are offering these benefits to your workers, or that you have this certification in your building, sustainability certification. But if the policy is not formalized, it's not so easy to share with the outside world. And also it may be, if you're pursuing certification, that a B Lab analyst will not be able to prove it or to verify that positive impact. So put things on paper whenever you can. It will also, help those changes last in time, even if you leave the organization. And it will also help you share them with other companies in the outside world. Track. So open a spreadsheet right away. The B Impact assessment is a great tool, but just a spreadsheet or a piece of paper may be the best start that you need. Just get started tracking those impact metrics. For instance, when it comes to environment, well, the energy that you're using, the water that you're using, and when it comes to workers, like I said a moment ago, the time that you're allowing them to volunteer, donations that you're making to nonprofits. See how much you can track, and if you really want to lead in this space, become a little bit obsessed with your impact metrics, which are your purpose metrics as an organization. We also recommend you to include your suppliers. Every company, depending on their sector, but most companies have some sort of suppliers, and you can share with them that you're doing this. You can let them know how it's going, share with them your process, your progress. And most of them will probably think that you are crazy, but others will be inspired and do the same. And if you can make all of this official in some way in the governing documents of the company, in your legal DNA, for that, in certain countries, B Lab has conducted research on what is the legal language that you should put in your governing documents, be that your constitution or articles of association, or however it's called in your country. We have conducted research on what is the language that you could put in there to make this purpose that you have and this commitment to positive impact legal. So how could you change your governing documents to acknowledge that in a legal way and legally binding, so that in the future, whoever leads the company has to keep those commitments. And for those countries where B Lab has done this research, and has recommended this legal language, you also get extra points in the assessment for doing that. I'm happy to address right away a quick question from Jose on the chat. What happens when we work in a co-working space where we cannot monitor the control of water or energy use or waste? Fantastic question, Jose. Well, there are two possible approaches. One is to select the option non-applicable, or we don't know, or we are not tracking this. There's always an option in pretty much every question in the assessment that is non-applicable or we don't know. That's okay. And in some cases, you will get 0 points for that question. And in some cases, the points, if let's say if the assessment believes that it's really non-applicable to you, then that score will be redistributed. That potential score will be redistributed across other questions. But you could also, if you wanted to really go the extra mile, start a conversation with your provider, with that co-working space, about those impact metrics. And you would be able, if you really want, I believe, to calculate in proportion to, let's say, the square meters that you use, make a rough assessment of what is the part of those monthly, that monthly water usage, energy usage that you are actually consuming. So I believe it's tricky, I know, but I believe pretty much every company would technically be able to answer those questions, even if you're in a co-working space. Something we have to do at B Lab Europe, by the way. We are using the B Impact Assessment for a couple of years now, and we share a space, an office in Amsterdam as well, and it's something on our list. It's one of our goals on the B Impact Assessment. And we have 20 minutes or so left. Again, the main purpose of this webinar was to talk about the B Impact Assessment. Certification is something completely optional. In fact, we're really looking forward to a time when certification is no longer needed and we can all wrap it up, keep the B Impact Assessment run by artificial intelligence, and find another job because there's no need for us to do this work. But in the meantime, B Corp certification is available to for-profit companies. We believe that nonprofits already have a purpose in their DNA, and therefore there is no need for them to achieve this kind of certification. Any size or location and at least 1 year of operations. There are a few countries in Europe, mainly Western European countries, that have a program called Pending B for startups, but in most cases you need to have 12 months of operations in order to pursue B Corp certification. There are a few exceptions. Not absolutely everyone can pursue B Corp certification. There are industries that we have considered too controversial or too risky for B Lab to try to use our standards to measure their impact, because they have too many how do we call it, externalities or negative impacts that our standards are simply not able to be used to really assess the severance of those impacts. So when you receive the slide deck, or maybe I can do it like this right away, copy link address, I'm sharing on the chat the section of our website about controversial industries. So if you are part of a company that has, let's say, a lot of negative impacts or that is in a controversial industry, please have a look at this section of our website. So there we have things like gambling, fisheries, I believe, plastics production, anything automotive as well, anything to do with fossil fuels. There are a few industries that can't pursue B Corp certification for the time being. So how does the process look like? Complete the B Impact Assessment. That's the first step. Well, open an account. If you haven't opened an account yet, that's the first step. Invite your colleagues. Don't try to do it alone. If you can, invite others or invite a consultant that can be your sparring partner. and complete the B impact assessment trying to achieve at least 80 points. We recommend 85 or 90 ideally. Then there will be a big blue button that says submit, and that's the way to send the assessment to B Lab in order to be looked into by our analysts. And then just for you to know, there are a couple different stages. The first one we call evaluation, and it's a preliminary check on your assessment. Then there is some waiting time in between. We call that verification queue. Then we have verification, which is the more in-depth part of the process where you will get asked many questions by our verification analysts. You will be asked to upload different pieces of documentation, and you will have in most cases, you will have a one-to-one call with an analyst. And that whole process can take a few months, actually, in order for them to review your whole B impact assessment. If all goes well and you remain to have a verified score above 80 points, then the last step is to sign the B Corp agreement, which is an agreement with B Lab about what certification means, what you're allowed to do with the intellectual property, with the logo, what you're not allowed to do. It explains the recertification process that Martina mentions that happens every 3 years. And you also sign the Declaration of Interdependence, which is about why we are doing this and what it means to be a B Corp. And then there are fees that help support our work. We have something called a verification fee that you pay just so that our analysts can go through the review process with you, regardless of whether you achieve certification or not. In the past, we didn't have this verification fee, and we found it to be deeply unsustainable for our structures. So some analysts would spend hours and hours with companies that sometimes would not certify. And then, so we had to introduce this year a verification fee, and then we have an annual certification fee that is paid every year by a B Corp to maintain its certification. And that depends, the fees vary depending on the annual revenues of the company. Elise, if I could ask you if you would be so kind to share that the link to that section of our website. I'm sure people are curious, and you can see there very transparently and explain in a much better way than I just did how much it costs to become a B Corp. Complex structures and related entities. If you are part of an organization that has different entities or different brands, or shares any functions with other entities from, let's say, another company, you need to let us know in advance, or you need to let your consultant know in advance, so that we do a preliminary check with you on whether the scope of certification that you're thinking about is correct. For instance, if there are different legal entities, which ones need to do this legal change, this mission lock that we mentioned on the chat a moment ago? Which ones should be captured in the B impact assessment? Are there any entities that could be left out? Those entities that are left out, can they use the B Corp logo or not? And also, how many B impact assessments do we need? Because for large groups that have entities across countries or across continents, as you can imagine, trying to capture all of that impact, all of that data in one single B impact assessment is close to impossible. So this is never at the discretion of the company. It's always B Lab giving you a confirmation on this. So please reach out to us or to your point of contact, be that a trained B leader or someone at B Lab Europe. Let them know as soon as possible if that is the case, because it could really influence the scope of your certification and how you feel in the B impact assessment. And we're getting closer to the end. A brief note on how to communicate your B Corp journey. You can, I will read a bit here because I want to say it literal and not miss anything. You can publicize your commitment to taking actionable steps towards achieving B Corp certification. It's a wonderful way of saying we are going to do this, or we're going to try to do this. It's a conversation starter also with your customers, with other businesses in your network. We want to take this seriously and prioritize it. But please don't use the certified B Corp logo to signal your intentions of becoming a B Corp. That could be confusing. It could be greenwashing. So please don't do that. Don't mess up with our legal people at B Lab. Luckily, we don't need to make use of them often, but please don't use the certified B Corp logo until you have actually become a B Corp. Please refrain from using language that implies you will receive the certification. The focus should be on your ambition and actionable steps that you're taking towards it. The certification becomes certainty only after successful completion of the review process. And last, don't use the pending B logo. Pending B is a status awarded by B Lab to startups that have completed the legal requirement. As I said before, that's a special track for startups that have less than 1 year of operations, but it's not a generic indication that the company is in the process of certifying as a B Corp. Is that clear to everyone? Thank you, Alice, for sharing that on the chat. Martina explained extensively the kind of things that you will find in each impact area. And if you are working in an organization that is large enough to have different departments, these are probably the departments that you will need to be talking to in order to fill in the different questions in the assessment. In fact, it may be a good idea to invite them to the assessment so that you have, let's say, one person able to access the assessment from HR, from facilities, from the board, from procurement. Involve your colleagues as much as possible. And this is also something that an external consultant can help with. I've seen it firsthand numerous times. It's not easy to run this kind of meetings and this kind of collaborative process on your own sometimes. And I will not go through this in detail, but when you receive this slide deck, you will see examples of ideas or arguments or talking points for you to persuade your colleagues, if you need to, of initiating an impact journey. So these are some ideas or of things that will probably be attractive to different colleagues depending on the area where they're at the organization. So I'll let you go through those when you receive this slide deck. And you can do all of this yourself using the B Impact assessment and then looking for webinars, using the knowledge base, reading through material that other companies have put out, or you can use the help of a trained B leader. Again, B leaders are qualified professionals trained by B Lab. They operate on a consultancy or interim basis, and they support throughout from BIA to certification. One of the reasons of this webinar today was that we just finished a training this week for over 40 individuals across Europe. So if someone invited you to this webinar, or if you're watching this as a recording because someone invited you to watch it, who has taken one of these trainings, they will be your point of contact, and they will make it much easier and probably faster for you to achieve certification. I would like to ask, I was meant to do it myself, but I don't have it right now. If I can ask Martina to share on the chat perhaps the easiest way to contact Flagship Impact. They can definitely support you with it. They are trained as well as B leaders. And again, if a trained B leader send you an invitation to this webinar, they will be your point of contact moving forward. Before we say goodbye, and close off with the last couple slides, I would like to make a pause and ask whether there are any questions in the room. You can drop them on the chat, or if you're courageous, raise your hand and unmute yourself. And in the meantime, I'll scan through the chat. Don't be shy. There are no stupid questions ever. I will start with something I'm seeing on the chat, and I think, Martina, are you happy to take later also the question about double materiality? Wonderful. Yolene, or Yoline, I'm so sorry, I think it's Yolene, I'm not sure. What is your view on the difference in legislation in countries? Some questions require data which is illegal to collect in the Netherlands. Great question, thank you for asking. So the B impact assessment adapts to the country that you're in and asks you relevant questions that are more relevant to your local reality. We acknowledge that this is sometimes not as adaptable as we would like. And in the next version of the standards, in the new assessment also that will come to life at some point between next year and the year after, we will make this localization of the questions even more relevant. But in some cases, like you're asking, Yulin, about collecting data from workers, for instance, I know that in the Netherlands and in France, there are a couple questions, there are not too many, a couple questions in the assessment where you just need to select that it's not applicable to you or that you're not collecting that data. So in that way, there is a little bit of for us to improve still, but also the B impact assessment over the years has improved a lot in making this localization relevant. I can see, okay. How big, GIIRS is asking, how big a percentage of all the companies so far are NGOs? Wow, that's a great question. I imagine you're asking how many NGOs are using the B impact assessment. I don't know. I think it's over 200,000 companies that have organizations that have a B impact assessment account. That's a great question. I don't know how many of them are nonprofits. I'm sorry. And maybe one last more before I pass the word to Aina. I see a question from Patrick. Greetings from Tipperary, Ireland. If you're not a trained B leader, do you think it is okay to use the free open source B impact assessment tool in order to provide mentoring and sustainability professional services to companies? The short answer is yes. I think it's a good idea. And practice is extremely important. A B leaders training will give you a lot of tools, but the practice is really important. So if you take it really, really, really seriously and you reach out to us and you work with different companies, you will acquire a similar level of knowledge than a B leader has gained during the training. But then again, you need to make it a priority, but you can do it. Nothing prevents you from it. Aina, thank you for raising your hand.
Yeah, hi Nico and everyone. Yeah, thank you for this presentation. I have two questions, if that's okay. So I wanted to ask you to clarify, please, about you mentioned about the pro bono support, so the 40 B leaders who were trained. So how exactly does that work? Because actually, I don't remember who invited me to this webinar. Now that you mentioned it, and like how do we connect with the B leaders if we have like follow-up questions?
Wonderful. Am I sensing by the way you put your question that you filled in a form saying that your company was okay? Wonderful. Sorry for not getting back to you yet. It's my fault. You will be contacted at some point within the next 2 or 3 weeks because we just finished the training, and I know that everyone is seeing which companies they can support. If you could say maybe, because I know there are a couple of B leaders in the room and others will watch the recording that were just trained by us, could you maybe remind us what is your company Matchstick?
Matchstick, yeah, that's us.
And where are you incorporated? Just to know in
We're
terms
in
of
Prague,
language. In
Czech
Prague,
Republic.
wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm quite sure because there are a couple.
Language English, though, I have to say.
You don't speak Czech?
No.
Okay. Well, Flagship Impact is in Czech Republic, so it could be them reaching out to you, or it could be someone else. But it will happen, I can say with certainty, at some point over the next 2 or 3 weeks.
Great. Thank you so much. That's awesome to hear. My second question was, if you can share, so you mentioned that it's best to apply when you have like 85 points or, a little bit of room. So what are the most kind of common areas where people or companies lose points during the, during the process?
That's an excellent question. I want to leave space also for Alice in case she wants to chip in. But something I would say is with impact business models, which is this very particular dimension of the B Corp standards, where you capture the extraordinary impact that you have on a stakeholder, companies are often too optimistic about this. So when you're going through the questions in the assessment and you open an impact business model, you will see it because it says impact business model next to it, and it's, let's say, a chunk of 5 to 10 questions. And it's rare to have an impact business model. It's quite rare to have 2 to 3 impact business models. It's almost impossible to have more than 3 impact business models unless your company was really born to solve a social or environmental issue. So when we see coming in a company with 4 impact business models, we usually think, okay, maybe we should give them a warning. Maybe we should kind of, and in that sense, the help of a consultant is really helpful. That's one thing, one area where companies can lose 20 points like this during a verification process. Alice, is there something you would like to add?
No, I think you did a great job of explaining, but just to piggyback on what you were saying about impact business models, I would just suggest to all companies to go through that portion of the B impact assessment really slowly and really thoroughly, and make sure that you're really considering what the impact business model is asking, because a lot of times not only people are optimistic, but there is some confusion in the wording and interpretation sometimes of the way the questions are asked. So if you find yourself having maybe, let's say, 2 or 3 impact business models in environment, you should really consider what it is that you're trying to get points for, and see if there really is just one impact business model under environment that catches the impact that you're making, instead of spreading it out across several different impact business models. So that would just be my 2 cents on that. Thanks,
Thank
Nico.
you, Alice.
Thank you both.
Gabriela, what's your question?
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, just a quick question. That is it worth, as a travel agency, obviously, we have a higher impact. So I'm wondering, is it worth finding a consultant that is that specializes in a particular field, such as travel, to support us in accomplishing the B Corp certification, or does it matter? Because we are a smaller company. We're only 9, so it's not like we're huge. But I'm kind of curious on your suggestion on that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And indeed, we see that certain B leaders or consultants get specialized in certain sectors. And maybe I can match your question with another question in the chat from Kirsi about working across countries, because I believe, I may be wrong, but either Kirsi or someone from her network, forgive my ignorance here, is actually working in the travel or tourism industry. So maybe if you want to share, Kirsi, maybe if you want to send a private message over the chat to Gabriela in terms of how they could contact you.
Gabriela, yes, indeed. Our whole Balkan Green Group is concentrating on destination management, and we work also with the two other certification programs, which are the Good Travel Program and Travel Life for tour operators. But we joined the B Corp's training like in this past week. And yeah, we got 30 years under our belts of travel and tourism, so might be a good match. I'll share my contact here in the chat. However, Nico, I have sent you guys an email because I had my chat with my probable guinea pig for my path here. But if there is need, Gabriela, to match with further people from travel and tourism, then I'm happy to help as well if we cannot match. Yeah.
Lovely. Thanks so much.
Welcome.
Thank you both. And we're almost at time, but maybe I don't see right now Martina on my screen. Martina, do you want to react to the question you got earlier on the chat about double materiality?
Sure, Nico. I'm just gonna go back to see it. I think Corina was asking if I can share more details. Here. No. Nico, if you can see the question, can you read it out to me?
Yes, we've had a very active chat. Thank you all for participating.
I can see it now. Okay. Could you explain a bit what is double materiality for ESG reporting? Yes, Corina, thank you. You are right. I did have a slide for that. I'm not sure if Nico will be able to go back to that slide. I had a slide explaining that basically the double materiality process is mandatory for reporting under CSRD. And I think what you do in terms of double materiality assessment is actually connected with how the B impact assessment is run a bit, in a way, a bit forward. Nico, one more. I think it's the next one, this one. Thank you. Yeah. So basically, under the double materiality process or analysis, you are required to identify your key impacts, risks, and opportunities for your own operations and your wider value chain. You do look at all of the activities of your company and also in terms of your supply chain and your the part of your chain in terms of your customers and the end life of your product or a service. As well as the B impact assessment, which is looking at your impacts throughout the activities of your company. In here, you also assess what kind of risks and opportunities are relevant for your business, meaning what kind of basically impact do you find that sustainability issues pose to your financial performance. So for example, the main kind of example that offers itself is usually climate change, which poses a serious risk to many of the operations of the companies these days, either through physical risks such as floods or droughts, or through transitional risks that are posed to the business. So the double materiality analysis in terms of the reporting for CSRD is a bit more complex in terms of looking at your business through two lenses, impact and then risk and opportunities, meaning financial materiality on the other side. But it very much connects also with the lens that B impact assessment is having on your business. So I can see how these two could complement each other, basically. Let me know if it answers your question.
So with that, we are at time. Thank you again, everyone, for your participation. I want to end with a quote from one of the founders at B Lab, one of the people who started the organization 20 years ago. And it says like this: if business played by a different set of rules and was actually improving the climate, rebuilding local economies, communities, and actually creating jobs with dignity, all of those things would lead to more stable societies and more stable governments. And I think that some of that would make us more resilient. Thank you all for coming. We wish you the very best in your impact journey ahead. And now let's get to work on it. See you soon.